Okay, so now talking about the Illuminati, we're going to talk a little bit about the Bohemian Grove and their connection with the Illuminati. And so when you look at the members of the Bohemian Grove, most of those members and the top high priests and the religious members of the Bohemian Grove are actually satanic priests of the Illuminati. And those that are invited to Bohemian Grove, those that hold membership in the Bohemian Grove, or also hold membership in the Illuminati or in one of the front organizations of the Illuminati, Freemasonry being the most prominent among them. So as we well know, satanic occults are evil. Jesus said that in secret have I done nothing, because he had nothing to hide. So Satan, however, does everything secretly. So if we have good men in the Bohemian Grove, why is everything so secretive, and why are they engaging in pagan rituals that we well know in the Bible condemns these practices? And so and when we look at all these organizations, they are of the devil, and it's very, very clear. We know that there are 2,000 carefully selected government officials in Bohemian Grove as members. They are presidents, corporate tycoons, politicians. They call themselves luminaries. And they're men with power to shape the future of political courses in our country and around the world. And they assemble privately, usually every July, and in a redwood forest about 65 miles north of San Francisco. And so the meeting includes a somber ritual that features a Quranic burning of an effigy on the altar, and a chants from a rogue chorus, and wild drinking and promiscuity. Richard Nixon one time described this gathering as the most, his words, not mine, the most faggiest damn thing you could ever imagine. So what happens in the Bohemian Grove is a lot of homosexuality. It's a lot of machoistic behavior that goes on, and there's a whole lot of worship of Satan under Quranic rites. And so the bizarre pagan ritual of the Bohemian Grove, known as the cremation of care, was filmed. And but one thing that wasn't probably told is that the cremation of care ceremony was practiced by a lot of prominent men, meaning there were a lot of politicians who took part in it. Presidents Bush, both Bushes, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Alan Greenspan, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Walter Cronkite, Colin Powell, Henry Kissinger, to name a few, have taken part in the cremation of care ceremony, and they have attended meetings at the Bohemian Grove. It is also reported that Barack Obama and McCain together, collectively, visited the Bohemian Grove at the same time in July of 2008. There is no Republican and Democratic lines between politicians as you see or think on television. Among them, they're working for the same office, people. So the November 1989 edition of Spy magazine featured many photos of the Bohemian Grove men dancing around dressed up as women. And so in the height of their promiscuity, they become very feminine. And so some of that got captured. The article also included renditions of the Moloch idol, and discussed how they bust in male prostitutes and how AIDS is a big problem in that area. And so in July of 2004, a New York Post article reported how a top gay porn star named Chad Savage serviced the Mongols at the Bohemian Groves. He serviced the bigwigs who have attended the 2-week retreat. It stated that he serviced George W. Bush, George Bush Sr., Dick Cheney, Alan Greenspan, Walter Cronkite, Newt Gingrich, Alexander Haig, Jack Kemp, Henry Kissinger, Colin Powell, John Major, William F. Buckley, Justin Dart, William Randolph Hearst Jr., Caspar Weinberger, Charles Precy, George Shultz, Edward Tiller, and former CIA Director William Casey. So when you combine that there's AIDS problems, homosexuality, and gay porn stars showing up over there, in which he named these men by name, tells you quite a bit about the kind of practices that these men have and why so many of their wives drink themselves to death. And so the Canaanite deity known as Moloch was worshipped for quite a while. The Canaanites of old, particularly the tribe that directly branched off from Canada, started re-worshipping Moloch on earth again, and that worship spread into the Cushite line, into Nimrod's line, and so that's why Moloch is such an important god among the Illuminati. It's one of the very first forms that Satan was worshipped under. And so Moloch was also worshipped in Greece, Egypt, Africa, Asia, even here in America. And so it is normally symbolized by a bull or an owl or some kind of type of horned beast, and children are sacrificed to it, and it is a precursor of all modern death occults. And so what purpose does all this serve, having world leaders congregate and engage in an ancient Canaanite ritual, a child sacrifice? It is a way of binding them together. And make no mistake, Moloch was specifically an idol known to accept largely child sacrifices, human sacrifices, specifically babies or small children. And Moloch was worshipped in a horned beast fashion or in an owl fashion, and this has a lot to do with the fact Satan is worshipped in a feminine and a male way. And the kind of worship that's being done in the Bohemian Grove is the more female version of Satan. So nowhere is the origin of the cult more in evidence than in our own leaders, in our own countries, and among our own leaders and politicians and royalty. And there are German groves where they do Quranic rituals just like they do in the Bohemian Grove. But there are many German politicians who have remarked that their most favorite place to do it was in the Bohemian Grove. And they talked about the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberger group, into which members of those groups have also participated in Bohemian Grove rituals. The CEO of IBM, Thomas J. Watson, was a member of Bohemian Grove, a position that was shared by his good friend, the fascist totalitarian leader of the Nazi regime, namely Adolf Hitler. IBM Germany, known in those days as Duomag, was totally and utterly immersed in the Nazi war rollout. Nearly every Nazi concentration camp operated a Hollerith department known as the Hollerith Autolig. This is a 5-digit Hollerith number and customized punch card system, and it's devised by IBM. It was software programming in its earliest forms. These Hollerith machines computerized the civil and slave labor resources, allowing for a streaming of the process. These IBM leased Hollerith machines matched worker skills and locations with labor needs during the building of the Nazi war machine. So the prisoner was worked until he was exhausted and then exterminated by gas or bullet.